First impressions. After their initial discussion, Celestia had insisted that Luna get some rest. The younger mare had protested, saying that she had had all the rest she needed, but conceded on the point that she needed time for her physical and magical strength to return. However, Luna had seriously misjudged how fatigued she was, and what started as a simple meditation session ended with Luna asleep on the floor, curled up into a tight ball. She had never needed sleep while wandering the warp, and she had forgotten about the feeling of simple pleasures. For the first time in 1,000 years, her soul knew peace, even if only for a little while. Luna's eyes twitched as the sun beamed down upon them. She rolled over, hoping that she would be able to move out of the sun's rays, but this proved ineffective as a poorly placed mirror reflected the beams right into her face. After a few minutes of fruitless attempts to remain asleep, she sighed and sat up, looking around the room that Celestia had designated as hers. "I will have to get rid of that sometime soon," she muttered before stretching out her wings. One by one the joints in her right wing cracked, a surprisingly pleasing sensation that made Luna crack a small smile. The only sound her left wing gave off was the faint clicking of cybernetics, her reminder of her fight with Discord and a warning should she ever begin to let her feelings of doubt gain too much control. Once she had finished, Luna stood and moved towards her balcony. Below her, she could see the city of Canterlot waking, ponies opening their businesses and pulling carts of produce to sell. They seemed happy, their innocence radiating off them. They did not have to live in fear of demonic incursions or attacks from other nations, or at least had not experienced such things in a long time. Luna frowned. Other than her observations here, she had no real way of connecting to these ponies. Never before had she had the chance or need to interact with normal ponies beyond official business, and times had changed considerably since she had been imprisoned. Even the party had left Luna very confused, as her sister's Warmistress. What few gatherings she had attended were much more formal, and nothing like the free-spirited celebration the citizens of Ponyville had given her. "I suppose I shall just have to get used to that," she thought. "But hopefully there will be a few more formal arrangements that I might be able to attend. I do not think I will be able to stand a consistent barrage of that kind of reverie, especially not that music." She shuddered and moved away from the window, crossing over to her dresser when there was a knock at the door. "State your business," Luna called. "Do you need any help, Your Majesty?" a voice replied. "Must be a servant of some kind." Luna initially felt like dismissing the servant. After all, she was a full-grown mare, and perfectly capable of taking care of herself. Then again, it could be beneficial to interact with some pony that is not my sister. Enter. The door opened. In stepped a young earth pony mare, dressed in a white apron and carrying a small tray, on which sat a small teapot and cup. The mare set the tray down and turned to face Luna. "Princess Celestia asked me to come up and see if you were all right," the mare explained. She needed not worry. "I am perfectly capable of taking care of myself." "Well, yes," the mare shuffled around a little. "But you did just come back," the princess thought that you might need some help adjusting. "Perhaps I do." Luna sighed. "I apologize if I come off as overly blunt. As you said, I have not had a chance to adjust, and as such I have not gotten a chance to familiarize myself with proper decorum." Yes, Your Majesty." "Majesty, it does not feel appropriate. Is there anything I can help you with?" "Well," Luna looked around the room, her eyes being drawn to the mirror. "Could you please move that mirror to a position with less sunlight? I do not want that thing beaming down in my face when I sleep." Of course, the mare moved over to the mirror, carefully pushing it away from the wall before scanning the room for a shady spot. Once she found one, the mare began to push the mirror so that it would slide across the floor easier. "You are very efficient," Luna said as the mare moved the mirror into place. "You must take pride in your work." "Thank you, Your Majesty." Luna was not sure, but she felt that this mare was being a bit stiff. She knew better than to approach the mare on this, in case she offended her, but it was not doing wonders for Luna's attempts to reintegrate into society. "I suppose I shall have to discuss this with my sister," she thought as the mare finished up moving the mirror. "Will that be all?" "Yes. You are dismissed." The mare hesitated for a moment before bowing slightly and leaving. Luna turned and walked back out onto the balcony, her eyes shifting back to the door for a brief instant before looking back out at Equestria. As far as introductions were, that could have gone better. Celestia set aside her morning tea before looking to the stack of papers the secretaries had prepared for her. Normally she did not mix work with her daily preparations, but ever since she gave up the title of Empress such separations had become more and more blurred. She would have set up an administration branch to deal with the workload, but that might have resulted in Celestia becoming more detached than she would have liked. With a sigh, she reached out and pulled the first few forms off the top of the stack, scanning them for important information before signing and sending them off on their way. Quite a few of the forms were absurd requests, such as preparing Equestria for a potential zombie apocalypse, a valid argument considering the powers of Nurgle, but the technique that the proposal suggested was unlikely to yield anything, but there were enough legitimate concerns for Celestia to focus on. Auntie. Celestia looked up from her paperwork as a pink alicorn with a multicolored mane entered the room. Is something wrong? Why would you think there's something wrong, Cadence? Celestia asked. Cadence shrugged and stepped towards the table. I've always had this innate sense when something is wrong. And you've been in here for almost 2 hours, that stack of paper has barely been touched and you're out of tea. You usually finish your tea when you're about halfway finished with your work. You must have spent a lot of time with Twilight, Cadence, you're starting to talk like her. Not such a bad thing, is it? Celestia gave a small smile and shook her head. But really, Auntie, something's bothering you. Yes. Celestia looked away. You know of the current political situation in the Griffin Kingdoms? Somewhat. The king hasn't selected an heir yet. It's worse than that. Celestia lifted up one of the forms. I just received this from our embassy. Not only is the king refusing to pick an heir, he's blaming me for the economy's stagnation. Me? They're the ones that overtaxed their citizens, not me. She sighed, taking a few breaths to calm herself. I'm sorry, Cadence, I should not have allowed my stress to bring up my anger like that. Well, you are still a pony. Celestia looked up to Cadence, raising an eyebrow. An incredibly powerful pony, but still a pony. I know. I suppose bringing my sister back has brought up a few parts of me that I would prefer remained suppressed. There was a pause before Cadence spoke again. What will you do? Nothing, for now. I can always move a few more companies of legionnaires to the outposts, but that would only encourage the Griffins. There was a pause. Is there anything I can do? Cadence asked. I'll let you know. Celestia straightened up a little and smiled. But enough about that. Tell me, Cadence, how is Shining Armor? Cadence blushed and took a small step back. Well, I think he's a little shy about, well, Celestia was about to answer when a second door opened. Tia, I was hoping I ask you about Dash. Luna began before stopping, her eyes snapping between Celestia and Cadence. Celestia thought that she saw her younger sister's wings bristle and prepared for the worst. Luna, is something the matter? She asked. Is something Dash? Luna jabbed a hoof at Cadence. Who is this? My name's Dash. Cadence began before Luna's head snapped around. Silence. This is between my sister and I, not you. Luna turned to Celestia. Explain yourself. Luna, I really don't see what the problem is. You don't? Luna stamped her hooves and flared her wings. You swore that you would not take a mate or lover. And now you go and break the very law that you set forth. Dash. Wait, Celestia raised a hoof, and was relieved that Luna stopped her rant. You think Cadence is my daughter? Is that her name? Yes, and no, she is not my daughter. But, Luna pointed to Cadence. But she's an alicorn. As far as I know, ponies cannot birth alicorns. I cannot fully explain that, but she is not my daughter. If anything, she is my adopted niece. Luna blinked as she began to make sense of what Celestia had said. She straightened up and fluffed out her wings, doing her best to recover her composure. I see. I apologize for my misconduct. I should have spoken to you about changes such as this, and my behavior was completely inappropriate for someone of my position. Luna turned to Cadence. I am sorry for shouting at you, Lady Cadence. I hope we can look past these troubles and work together in harmony in the future. Oh, of course. Cadence said, blushing again. Celestia noticed that the mare had taken a few steps back from Luna, and she seemed much shiftier than she had been a few minutes ago. I guess Luna is not the only one that needs to adjust. Was there something you wanted to ask me, Luna? Celestia asked. Yes. Luna turned her full attention back to Celestia. How soon can I return to my duties? In a few days, Luna. You still need to get used to Equestria so we don't have more incidents like. Celestia nodded towards Cadence. I understand, I think. Luna shuffled around a little. Have you been working on my armor? As soon as I am able, I will. Unless you would like to build it yourself. Luna's eyes brightened. Really? I can see that you are looking for a sense of familiarity until you fully settle in, consider this a first step of sorts. Luna nodded, and Celestia caught the hint of a smile on the younger alicorn's face. That moment disappeared as soon as it came, and Luna had returned to her normal stern demeanor. Thank you for this opportunity. I shall begin working as soon as I am able. Oh, of course. Celestia fluffed her wings and looked away. I have a few things I need to finish up, and we can talk later. As you wish. Luna nodded in respect and left the room. Cadence's eyes shifted from the departing alicorn and back to Celestia, who sighed again before returning to her paperwork. The very least she could do is smile. Celestia muttered as she set aside another form. Maybe I should go talk to her. Cadence said. After your first meeting, I doubt that going after her will change anything. You are a good mare, Cadence, but you cannot rush something like this, or else we'll create a much larger problem. Luna will warm up to you, trust me. Cadence nodded, but she still seemed unsure. She shuffled a little as Celestia finished off another form, and when Celestia did not respond again she excused herself from the room. Once Cadence was gone, Celestia sighed one more time before bringing her hoof to her face. Why can I never handle my family properly? It had been said that the night guard never slept. Metaphorical meaning aside, Force Commander Slight Hoof Lulamoon would beg to differ. The dark blue unicorn lay sprawled out across his mattress, his mind drifting aimlessly through the dreamscape. As his first real chance to rest since returning from Vancouver, he intended to enjoy every second of not having a bunch of insane cultists trying to rip his head off. That was, until Acolyte Midnight Glimmer entered his room. Commander Slighthoof, sir, the young bat pony asked, shuffling around on her hooves. MMPH, Kawaii. Sir? Justicar Echo wanted to speak with you about something. Can't it wait? I'm trying to sleep. She said it was important. Of course she did. Slighthoof grumbled and propped himself up on his forehooves, turning to face Midnight Glimmer. Where is she? Outside the barracks, sir, she's got the blindfold on again. Slighthoof nodded and climbed out of bed, exiting the room followed closely by Midnight Glimmer. The barracks were mostly deserted, with only a few other night guards' ponies to be seen. Most kept to themselves, although one or two did nod in courtesy as Slighthoof passed by. He wished he could say that he knew the names of those he saw, but that was the thing with the night guard, at times, the faces changed faster than they could be remembered. As he and Midnight Glimmer stepped out of the barracks, they saw another bat pony mare walking close to the wall, a crossbow grasped in her helmet's telekinetic aura and a blindfold wrapped around her eyes. Her ears twitched rapidly as she walked, and every step she took was completely inaudible. She stopped walking as Slighthoof and Midnight Glimmer walked over to her, her ears snapping around as they got closer and closer. Ah, Slighthoof, glad you could make it, she said before continuing down the wall. Well, you asked me to come out here, and here I am. Slighthoof replied. What's the problem, Echo? Many things. Echo stopped, raising her crossbow and loading a two-pronged bolt. There was a pause before she fired, a loud squeak greeting the ears of every pony present when the bolt reached its target. Slighthoof looked ahead and saw a large rat pinned between the prongs, struggling to free itself. Echo smiled and turned towards Midnight Glimmer. Acolyte, you might want to get rid of that before it gets away, it's been breaking into your room for the last few weeks, and it'll probably keep doing so if it escapes. It has. Well, your room is closest to the outside, isn't it? Midnight Glimmer did not respond, instead stepping past Echo and Slighthoof to retrieve the rat. Slighthoof ignored the younger bat pony and raised an eyebrow at the Justicar. Is that what you wanted to tell me about? Pest control. There have been several of those rats that have been sneaking into the barracks through a hole near the acolytes' quarters. And it is an important problem. If something like that can get in, something bigger could as well. And cultists can be very creative in their attempts to kill ponies. You're paranoid, Echo. I trust my ears more than anything else. I trust them even more than I trust you, sir. Slighthoof frowned, his ears flattening against his head. I take it you don't appreciate that. No, it's just weird when you talk like that. It doesn't matter. I'll get some pony to look at that as soon as possible, so you can relax a little and not go around shooting rats. And you can take that blindfold off, it makes you look creepy. Isn't that what you used to say about my eyes? Echo said as she reached up to remove her blindfold, revealing pale and unfocused eyes. I've gotten used to that. Echo nodded as Slighthoof turned back to the barracks. Since I'm up, I think I might set up a few drills. The acolytes were a little sloppy on our last deployment. This is coming from the pony who said he wanted a chance to rest. I never said we'd do the drills right away. I just want to be prepared, that's all. You're the Force Commander, do whatever you want. Echo began to walk off before stopping, her right ear flicking towards the palace. Somebody's approaching. Who? Slighthoof tensed up a little, and it took quite a bit of restraint to prevent himself from preparing several defensive spells. Not sure. Pony, most likely Pegasus, mare, bit larger than most, possibly the princess, you should be able to see her by now. Echo pointed her hoof just as a dark blue alicorn with a flowing mane stepped into view. Slighthoof blinked before his mind began to make sense of things. Different princess. He turned to Echo. You were here when Princess Celestia brought Luna back from the Everfree Forest, right? Not like I could have seen them, but yes. What does that have to do with anything? Slighthoof was about to answer when Luna spoke. Hail, Legionnaires, the princess called. I apologize for not notifying your commander, but I was notified of your location and wanted to see what condition the legions were in. Well, Slighthoof composed himself and tried to think of the right thing to say. We're a little small to be a legion, but we still serve Equestria as best we can. Highly commendable. There was a pause before Luna spoke again. Apologies again, but your name is? Force Commander Slighthoof Lulamoon at your service, ma'am. He gave a salute before gesturing to Echo. This is Justicar Echo, one of our best snipers. It's a pleasure to meet you, Princess Luna. Echo said, bowing. Likewise. There was another pause. Justicar Echo, is there something wrong with your eyes? I don't know, do you see something, because I can't? Slighthoof mentally cringed and prepared himself for a serious verbal backlash. Are you trying to make light of this? Luna asked, Slighthoof detecting a bit of steel in her voice. I have no other option, ma'am. Echo countered. If I offended you, I'm sorry. Another pause. Apology accepted, Justicar. I hope that, in the future, we may grow to understand each other a little better. Me too. Anyway, Slighthoof said, trying to defuse the situation. Is there anything else we can do for you, Princess? I would do a full review of your forces, but I have other matters to attend to at the moment. Thank you for speaking with me, though, it has been a while since I have spoken with soldiers such as yourself. Luna gave a small bow before turning to leave. The two night guards' ponies saluting her as she departed. Very formal. Echo said once Luna was gone. Maybe I should have talked to her a little more. Maybe, that probably could have gone better if you hadn't decided to talk back to her. Sorry, mother. Hey, this is serious. Slighthoof snapped. That was a princess you were talking to. Well, she got back from who knows where yesterday. Don't you think she'd need a chance to experience some of the changes around here? Echo sighed. Look, if it makes you happy, sir, I'll try to hold off comments like that in the future. Just try not to get yourself in trouble. I still need your fighting skills. Ah, I thought you kept me around because I was pretty. Echo bat her eyelids in a mock attempt to appear cute. Slight Hoof sighed and walked back to the barracks. I'll try to get those drills set up. In the meantime, go find the others and make sure the twins haven't blown anything up. Yes sir.